Hey, listen to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and MP. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey!
The wrestling world has been a buzz lately. We're not going to spend a huge amount of time on it, because we only got a little bit of facts and a whole lot of rumor. But I guess the fact of the matter is, with the WWE, Vince McMahon has reappointed himself into the board of directors, brought along a couple of people to go with him. Stephanie McMahon stepped down as CEO, leaving Nick Khan as the sole person in that spot, and a few reassurances that Triple H will remain on in his role as head of creative and doing what he's doing. Everything else around that's kind of just rumors at the point, whether, WWE is going to be sold, who it's going to be sold to, and various other things. But for now, that's where we are. And as of the moment, it has not affected the week-to-week television programming. And so, yeah, that's what we're going to talk about for the main part. And we'll start off with NXT New Year's Evil. We talked about it a little bit last week. It has come and it has gone, so we got ourselves some results. And I guess quite a few big things happening, but I'll focus on our NXT Championship match to start us off. Braun Breaker, Grayson Waller. We got ourselves a little fudgy finish.
Yeah, it was a little bit, but still, it was a good match, I think, between them, and it sets up further storylines for these two to go at it again. It is weird they broke the ring ropes twice during the match. But
Yeah.
it definitely was a situation where it definitely looked like Waller was definitely possibly on the verge of maybe breaking Braun Breaker when the rope quite literally broke on him.
A lot of breaking in that match, for sure. But yeah, it was a relatively short match. At the point where Grayson Waller was counted out, it was just over 12 and a half, or just under 12 and a half minutes. As you say, we are going to get a rematch. Grayson Waller, Braun Breaker going at it again, this time in a steel cage match. So this was just sort of a building block, which kind of feels a little, I don't know, not cheaty, but it makes NXT New Year's Evil as a whole feel like it was just a building block, right? We had number one contendership matches for all the other titles, and then this was our one title match. And it ended in a count-out victory and a rematch being booked for later. So although a lot of stuff happened on New Year's Evil, it wasn't a big title-heavy show. It was more showing us the path that we're going to be walking down for the next few months.
I'm fine with that because it was just a special event. It wasn't like it was a takeover. If it had been a takeover type event, then yeah, I'd be all complaining about one title match ending in a basically a no contest. Technically, Braun Breaker wins, but basically no winner. And the other matches are just to set up future matches.
Yeah. And one of those matches, it was a singles match. The Creed brothers were finally meant to get their match. It was finally meant to be the tag team match that we'd all anticipated. And Veer has gone off injured. And instead we ended up getting Jinder Mahal versus Julius Creed, which I don't think was on anybody's bingo card.
No. I will say this: I'm fine with Jinder being on down in NXT for right now, because it does help him. It'll help him stand out a little more, and he can also elevate some other people. Being a former WWE champion and all, I love to bring that up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, right, like if he's got nothing really going for him on the main roster. He didn't have any sort of big storyline, and we've always been pretty big proponents of bringing people down to NXT from the main roster. Your Dolph Ziggler's and the like, to build the talent, to showcase and to provide that little bit of crossover. And Julius Creed, as you say, although he may have lost the match, he lost to a former world champ.
So it does make sense to some degree. And this is a little stable that can work for a little while he's in NXT. And it will further elevate Senga and Veer when he's healthy by working with Mahal. A lot better than at least Shanky was.
Yeah, a little disappointing that injury robbed us of this tag team match that we'd building for so long. Like, the Creed brothers and this team were so intertwined for months leading up here, and unfortunately we don't get the big match, but yeah, interested to see what Jinder Mahal does down on NXT, how long his stint is, and what he's going to end up doing. What else do we have here? We got a bunch of number one contendership matches. Which title do you want to talk about first?
I guess we'll go with the women first, because I think we want to spend more time on our boy.
Fair enough. There was a 20-woman battle royal for the number one contendership to the NXT Women's Championship. The competitors, including Ivy Nile, Tatum Paxley, Alba Fire, Danny Palmer, Valentina Feroz, Cora Jade, Zoe Stark, Kiana James, Elektra Lopez, Lash Legend, Amari Miller, Sol Ruka, Wendy Chu, Indy Hartwell, Fallon Henley, Nikita Lyons, Lyra Valkyria, Theo Hale, and our two joint winners, Gigi Dolan and Jayne.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense from the standpoint of having them both in the match against Perez, stacking the odds against her.
Mm-hmm.
The way they went about it, though, did not make sense. Honestly, if you wanted to give them the simultaneous win, the easiest way for them is the both of them just step over the rope and drop at the same time. That ensures they both win. And it makes sense with their characters. But for them to fight each other? Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Especially when they're supposed to be a unit together.
It is a little bit weird. As you say, you could just gentleman's agreement. But I guess maybe they didn't know what was going to happen if it was a tie. They both wanted that opportunity. Maybe they didn't think about the tie being an option for a triple threat. I don't know. I'm trying to give them a little bit of an out here, a little bit of reasoning. But yeah, as you say, the match is going to be Roxanne Perez defending against both Gigi Dolan and Jayne in a triple threat, odds stacked against her. Hell of a title defense for Perez.
It will be one heck of a title defense, and one way it's that she can start her own path as NXT.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, it kind of touches on the Mandy Rose storyline that she was having before this, still a little bit, and it does answer at least the short-term question of what's going to happen to Toxic Attraction in her absence. So yeah, interested to see what's happening in that women's division, but, the 20 women I named, it was a pretty stacked battle royal, so I don't have any doubts or reservations about that NXT women's division. North American or tag team next? Which one you got?
Let's go tag team.
There was a tag team gauntlet match for the number one contenderships to the New Day's Championship. Odds-on favorite Pretty Deadly did pretty well. They took out Idris Enofe and Malik Blake, as well as the Rockers. Were meant to be going up against Briggs and Jensen as their final opponent to the gauntlet, and instead got completely waylaid and destroyed by a returning Gallus.
Well, that's a name we haven't thought of in months since the pub fight.
Yeah.
I will say this. I think this will be one of the best matches that the New Day have in NXT, because Mark Coffey and Wolfgang are phenomenal talents, and I think they will bring out the best in Kofi and Xavier. And likewise, I think Kofi and Xavier will bring out the best in them.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good little match. The big payoff at the end of this is still Pretty Deadly versus the New Day. This is just another step in the road, which means that the New Day are probably going to be down here for a little bit longer. We already had Briggs and Jensen taking a shot at it. Now we're going to have Gallus taking a shot at it. Would I be surprised if Gallus won? I don't think I would be shocked. But I don't think that's the end of the story.
No.
It's still pretty deadly. They're the guys that are going to do it.
Yeah, the biggest question mark, though, is Xavier Woods' health. That is the biggest question mark. Because he has been injured since, like, the 27th. But I do think, along the same lines, I don't see Gallus winning this match, but I think they'll be elevated just by working with the New Day. And I agree. I think WrestleMania weekend, I think that's when Pretty Deadly finally gets their shot, and they'll take back the titles and be much bigger stars because of it.
Yeah. Obviously, you've got NXT Vengeance Day on February 4th. That's their, I believe, next takeover coming up where all of these title matches are happening. But NXT Stand and Deliver on April 1st. That's the big one. That's NXT's version of WrestleMania, so that's the hype one. So maybe we see Gallus taking a shot at Vengeance Day and then Pretty Deadly getting their shot at Stand and Deliver.
Yeah, finally earning the title shot.
And then our final number one contendership match on NXT New Year's Evil. It was the North American Championship contendership on the line. We thought it might be a triple threat match for the title, but instead number one contendership. Dijak taking out Tony D'Angelo.
Yeah, this was a really good match, and ultimately, it set up Dijak for showing what we missed in the 2 years he was behind that bloody mask.
Yep.
I think this guy is a pretty special talent, and I think the match that Wes Lee and him are going to have, regardless if it's at the next month's event or if they have like a second match at Stand and Deliver or something, I think these will be some of the best matches of the year. That's how much I admire both guys' talents.
Yeah, I was always a big Dijak guy. Struggled to pronounce his name multiple times on the show, but I was always behind him. I liked his presentation. I liked what he could do in the ring. As you say, very disappointing main roster run. T-Bar was not it. Retribution as a whole was not it. And yeah, it's good to see him back on NXT and flying, spreading his wings and showing what he can do.
Also, let's bring something back to Tony. The title match he had with Wes Lee, it seemed like he was too focused on trying to hurt Wes Lee than actually taking the title. In this match, he was too focused on trying to protect his lackey than actually winning the title.
Yeah, Tony's getting a lot of character work in the way that he's been storytelling his matches. And I think, as you say, that's a thing that not necessarily people are noticing. But yeah, Tony D'Angelo has been an absolute staple since the NXT 2.0 launch. And moving forward, he obviously hasn't picked up that big win yet, but he's a solid talent. And if you threw him in for an NXT championship match, nobody's going to be mad. Nobody's going to think he's out of place. For me, D'Angelo really has, proved himself in this little box of NXT, and I always enjoy what he puts on. Alrighty, well, it is it's over halfway through the show. We talked a lot about NXT. It is time to go into our entrance theme. When we get back, Raw and SmackDown, there's been quite a lot of stuff that we got to get through on there. But for now, it is going to be our entrance theme of the week, and I'm not even going to tell you who it is. You're going to know exactly who it is when that glass shatters. And you're back at Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. I'm Grady, he's Josh. We got a lot of stuff to go through, but let's focus on these main roster tag team titles, because that's quite a bit across Raw and SmackDown. McIntyre and Sheamus couldn't do it. They didn't get it.
No, they didn't, but ultimately, it's just furthering the storyline. This was a phenomenal tag match. These 4 guys can go any time of the week, so it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it just wasn't quite there or something, due to Solo. But you could tell the end game is near for these tag titles.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who takes the titles off of them, but somebody in the next 2 to 3, between now and WrestleMania, beats the Usos.
Yeah, I think it's, let's at least talk about, I guess, stuff on Raw. It was a gauntlet match for the tag team championship number 1 contendership. They saw what NXT was doing and said, we'd like a little bit of that, please. Difference being, they had the Judgment Day run the entire gauntlet. They took out the OC, they took out Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, they took out the Alpha Academy, and then they ended up taking out the Street Profits in the final.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of a player switch in the last match, but still.
Yeah. But that's kind of what makes the Judgment Day work, though, is because it's, again, a Freebird situation. 3 guys that could be interchangeable. I like the idea that they're going somewhere with Judgment Day here. And it feeds further into the Dominic storyline. I'm not sure Judgment Day is the team that takes them down, but it would surprise me.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't confirmed this, but from Brando's wording in the group chat, was the Judgment Day only winning a contendership shot for half of the undisputed title here?
The results that I'm looking at doesn't say anything about it being for a single title.
Honestly, if that's how the Usos end up losing, I could see that. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm such a Judgment Day fan. But I don't know. The Judgment Day, I want the titles on them, but storyline-wise, are they the people to win the titles? Probably not. And I think that's the problem here, right? Because whether you want to head down the Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn path, whether you want to take other things like that, that seems to be where the storyline is heading. The Judgment Day haven't interacted a whole lot with the Usos. They're both heel teams. And they both have factions behind them. You know, if Solo Sikoa tried to interfere himself in the match, one of the guys who's not in the match can jump in. But I just don't know. I want the titles on the Judgment Day. I don't see them beating the Usos and breaking that long reign. Maybe they're up next, after whoever does it. Or, if you're splitting the titles. Who knows?
Maybe if we do find out that it is definite for for just the Raw tag titles, then yeah, I could definitely see something going awry and them winning the Raw titles, because that wouldn't break their record title reign, because they would still hold on to the SmackDown. I don't know. I feel like everything is set up for Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens being the guys that does it.
Yeah. I've confirmed here, the problem is that it could just be a bit of a mistake from Adam Pearce, but he did say the winner of the Tag Team Turmoil match would get a shot at the Raw Tag Team Championship. You know, did he just slip of the tongue, or was that actually the intention? We don't quite know. We'll have to see next week, because I don't see anything on WWE.com about it being that way either, so we will wait and see. Talking in the tag team division, one of those tag teams that the Judgment Day were able to beat, Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. They were teaming together for the first time since February of last year, because it's all coming back and business is about to boom.
They are definitely starting to really hint at the Hurt Business reforming. They, because you had Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander in the tag team tournament, which obviously they just needed them for there to be bodies for the storyline. And then after like a segment that involved Bobby Lashley, my MVP tried to smooth things over with him. So we may be close to the Hurt Business returning. If we do get the Hurt Business returning, I kind of want to see them go against the Bloodline. But the problem with that is that the Hurt Business works as a heel team. And the Bloodline is the ultimate heels. So I don't know if... I don't think that would work that well. But I would still like to see it.
Yeah. Still be fun to see. And then if we're looking at checking our time, Bray Wyatt, his or should I say Uncle Howdy's grip on the WWE spreading across to Raw. We'd already seen the hints from Alexa Bliss. Now she's being directly confronted with those ghosts of her past.
Yeah, I don't know. I was never a fan of the Alexa Bliss Bray Wyatt union. Just didn't seem to click with me, and I'm not excited for this if they do decide to go that route. Personally, I want to see them somehow break the grip and have Alexa return to her goddess gimmick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't quite know what we're going to end up doing going forward, and that's the confusing part, I guess. It's because if Alexa Bliss is just going back under the control again, and that's pretty boring. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do here, but Uncle Howdy is knocking on her door for sure. And we'll have to wait and see how this all ends up rolling across Raw, SmackDown, Bray, Howdy, Bo Dallas, Alexa Bliss, the other Funhouse characters. I don't know. You know, the last we saw all of Bray Wyatt's cool spooky powers, they were in Alexa Bliss, so maybe she's holding the powers and Howdy wants them back or something. I don't know where the storyline's heading. And, let's give you a little bit of time. Bloodline, opening segment of SmackDown. We're pretty mad at Sami Zayn. Is it time? Is the trigger being pulled? Or are we waiting until the Rumble when it's Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns?
I think I don't think the trigger was pulled, but I think the gunpowder was definitely laid out. And trailing to the dynamite that's going to set off. I think this was the moment that people can see Zayn is starting to grain on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think things do come to a head at the Rumble. I think Zayn's will almost accidentally cost Reigns the title. Something will happen where Zayn is trying to help Reigns and accidentally nearly knock Reigns out.
Mm-hmm.
And Owens will get a 2 count on it. And then Reigns will eventually win the match. And then either on the Raw after or SmackDown, that's when he gets thrown out of the group. And
yeah, his days are definitely numbered for sure.
Yeah. But I do think it's definitely the Rumble is definitely the powder keg.
Because at the moment it is all speed ahead to Kevin Owens going against the Bloodline. That's his number one thing, right? Or the Bloodline's number one enemy at the moment. You know, you got a little bit of Drew McIntyre and a little bit of Sheamus sitting there as options, but Kevin Owens is where all the money is on. He's the one who's got the match at the Rumble. He's the one with the best friend who's in the group. We just don't know exactly whether it is a Raw or whether it's a SmackDown where Sami Zayn's getting the pulp beat out of him. Alright, we've got very little left in the show. Is there anything that I missed that you wanted to hit? Furious skimming through results intensifies.
Well, we had a Royal Rumble qualifying match. Let's talk about that.
those things do exist, and Ricochet got himself a spot.
It was a fine match, for the most part. I mean, it continues, like, Ricochet's, like, rising through the ranks.
And his friendship
it's just
with Braun.
the fact that it was a qualifying match, something we don't see anymore.
That's true. Well, we get to see it a little bit. I think we're going to get a few more of them as our next 2 weeks roll on. We don't have a lot of announced competitors just yet, but we'll have to wait and see who ends up going into that Royal Rumble match, and how Ricochet and Braun Strowman's friendship moves forward as well, with Braun saving him from a beatdown. You're getting closer and closer to that fully formed tag team. Maybe we'll see them and their friendship appear in the Rumble match itself. But we have run out of time, unfortunately. It's been great talking to you.
Bye-bye.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling R&D Upper, our Twitter page, twitter.com/wrestling R&D Upper, our YouTube page, youtube.com/wrestling RND Up. And we will catch you next week.